I find business owners get stuck inside of their company, mostly in the customer relationships, in the sales function.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast presented by Cornerstone International Alliance. I'm your host, Nick Olsen. On this show, I get the opportunity to talk with the brightest minds in lower middle market M&A. Together, we discuss industry intelligence, deal management, shared successes, specialized expertise, and much more. If you serve the small to medium-sized business owner, this show will offer you tactics and insights you can use and implement now to become a master in M&A. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast. Today's guest is a CEO and founder of Rise Up Business Coaching, where she provides leading impact team focused on value and growth and exit planning for business owners. Exit Planning Institute's 2026 Exit Planner of the Year, amazing accomplishment there, and a member of their Thought Leadership Council. She has achieved her Certified Exit Planning Advisor CEPA designation with deep expertise in their value acceleration methodology, a best-selling author of Ready to Rise and creator of the Ready to Rise energy management system focused on the human side of exit planning, founder of Exit Mentor, a collaborative peer community helping CEPAs elevate their practices and execution capabilities, and a trusted advisor to hundreds of business owners, known for integrating strategy, execution, and personal transformation into successful exit journeys. Please welcome my guest, Renee Russo. Renee, so happy to have you on the show today. How you doing?
Great. Sorry for teeing you up with a mouthful there.
Hey, I'm
exhausted listening to all the things that I do.
You earned it. I just got to let the audience know who we got on the show. They're definitely a very...
That's why I don't sleep very much. That's why I sometimes work on weekends.
Yep. And then you try to go sleep on the weekends, and you're at a hockey rink.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, today we want to talk about just all the great things we just mentioned in your introduction, but let's start with the Exit Planning Institute Exit Planner of the Year Award, which you won in 2026, and I believe you were recognized with that award at their summit about a month or so ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does that award mean to you?
It was a surprise to me, actually. I've just been so focused on the things that I want to accomplish that I was out in Cleveland, which is where I got this mug, at the Exit Planning Institute podcast studio. And Scott's like, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, what? And he's like, you've been nominated for Exit Planner of the Year. I was like, what? I didn't even do a LinkedIn campaign for that. Like, how on earth? I think that the most magnificent thing about that is that my peers, my community of fellow certified exit planning advisors, which were close to 11,000 now, recognize that our approach needs to shift. And they recognize that my past as a former business owner who's been through her own double exit, who's very forward with her personal story, learning from hardship and the why behind my work, that this industry is ready for a little bit more of a human-centered approach. It's very curious. It's not that financial advisors, M&A advisors, accountants, lawyers, and so forth don't want to lean in. It's often that they don't know how. In many cases, these advisors have not been in the business owner's seat, in the darkness, in the suffering, or been through an exit of their own. So they struggle to engage in those conversations. So they're looking at me as an example of that and how to do it, even though it's not like you have to have had a business, but you can relate to the business owner in certain types of ways when you learn to think like them, behave like them, and act like them. Every business advisor has the opportunity to embody business ownership thinking, treat their practice like their own company, and step into more human-centered conversations in this work. They also look at me because I come from the business optimization space. As a former business owner myself, my husband at the time and I had a business technology company for 15 years. And we went through the startup phase, all the crisis of scale. He had a cancer journey. We had a hostile takeover, bought out a business partner. We raised a young family in the midst of all this chaos. And I got to a breaking point. And I was talking to my brother in Australia, and his company was in technology and they were using EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system. He's like, you should read Traction, sort yourself out, like get the business organized and get some four walls around it. So I got introduced to business operating systems frameworks about just over 15 years ago, and became an implementer. That got me was the ability to sit in, not just in the trench with owners, but in the chaos of their business and understand the mechanics of companies and how to value enhance and optimize them to create a self-managing business that the business owner doesn't need to show up every day to, and one that is transferable. So my business improvement specialty is also of interest to this community. And frankly, we need more of that. We need more value advisors who can unlock value in these companies and sustain that value, and advisors who are willing to have much more human-centric conversations and approaches to their work. I think embodying those two things caused the community to pull me to the front. So my voice and my message and my approach can be heard and understood by more of this community.
Amazing. Very well said. What do you think? You talked about, a unique approach or a new approach for the community, but just this ecosystem that you're a part of with all the other CEPAs out there in the EPI ecosystem, where do you think this profession is evolving to?
Mm-hmm. I think that we are needing to be much more human-centered. So we need to step into vulnerable conversations, ask certain questions, and really lean into the relational journey of the business owner and be a better guide to them. Every advisor needs to be better educated on the mechanics of the business and know how to bring in the right support to unlock the value, because up to 80 to 90% of a business owner's typical wealth is locked in those businesses. So we need to get a little bit more business savvy. And then the other piece is we need to be much more collaborative. A collaborative team of advisors working with a business owner can unlock exponential value, drive execution, and change outcomes. I'll give an example. I'm working with a company that ran an EOS implementation with another implementer, hit $30 million, and realized that they were kind of stuck there. But deeper, their business owners were not aligned around their own succession journey. And that was creating a cap on the business because the business owners were risk averse, not investing, and they were holding the line because they had 3 different demographics on that business owner team, and they didn't know what each other wanted or how to make that succession process happen. One of them is 65 years old and needs to retire. What I learned in the process of working with them is that their accountant and lawyer had never met. Both had been working with this company for 15 to 16 years. Worse yet, those advisors work in the same tower. Part of what that business owner group was experiencing was decentralized advisory that wasn't coordinated, wasn't collaborative, and aligned around the needs of this specific ownership group. They were leaning in their subject matter expertise, instructing and guiding in their lane, but never really looking at the whole picture. And so I've been able to bring them together and to act as a team. Even though they don't want to, it's a little bit of forcing. I bring them to a structured meeting rhythm, and now we're getting unstuck, moving towards a retirement. We're unlocking appetite to reinvest in the business. Those owners were stuck in the execution gap, and that I think was borne out largely out of the lack of advisor collaboration. So the third piece around the future of this profession is we need to become seamlessly integrated, not just collaborative, but seamlessly integrated, quarterbacked by a CEPA who is running the process, making the plays, and ensuring that the advisor ecosystem is wrapping around the business owner group every stage of the journey.
In your opinion, who is that person that needs to bring that collaborative approach, that ecosystem together around the business owner?
Sometimes people want me to answer this question and name a profession. I think it's not actually a profession. In the EOS world, we have way that we get the right people in the right seats. And so the way we do that, we use Jim Collins' core values, and they have to then in the right seat, get it, want it, and have capacity to do it. I think that is the secret to figuring out the who. So I believe the true quarterback has these three core values. They're humble, hungry, and smart. They're humble enough to recognize they don't have all the answers. They're hungry. They're achievement oriented. They like success. They move things along to get outcomes. And they're smart. They can integrate different intelligence, resources, and so forth. They have the ability to prioritize what's most important. They really see the play. And they need to get it, want it, and have capacity to do it. They have to get what the role of the quarterback is. I've been studying the role of the quarterback. We had Ben Utek come and speak at the summit, who played under Peyton Manning. And so I really got very curious about the role of the quarterback. They create the pressure pocket, the intensity, the urgency. They see the field and they make the play. They lob the ball down and they move the players downfield. And the quarterback needs to get what that role is, want it. You cannot do this halfway. You have to go all in and have the capacity. They have to be enough of a generalist to know all the realms of personal, financial, and business and know the who's that they have to bring in. They do not have to be the specialist, but they have to have the capacity to understand the science of this very well. They need to know VAM, the value acceleration methodology, like the back of their hand, and have a lot of intelligence in this domain. So they have to get it, want it, and have capacity to do it. Often I see a really well-rounded value growth advisor who has got a very strong handle on the business and ownership relationship, who's got a good network and wants and has capacity to do it, can be a really powerful quarterback. I've seen some financial advisors do this well, but really, to me, it's about the right people in the right seat, DNA of the quarterback, as opposed to a specific profession.
Right. Yeah, because not everybody is that leader, that collaborator, or that person that can bring everybody together. And they could be very, very smart, but that's just not, their personality. So I do like the fact that you're not pinning it to a certain profession. It's just the right person, bringing the right people to the table together.
Totally.
Tell us a little bit about, you said you were part of a successful exit. Tell us a little bit about that and how that shaped you into being, the exit planner of the year.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to open that question up a little bit more. My own exit was not successful. My own double exit was marriage and business exit. One of the 5 Ds, divorce. So it was involuntary. It was messy, hard, and nearly broke me. While I was navigating my own exit, one of my clients asked me to help him sell his company. I did not think I was equipped for the job. And he said, "You are the person who knows the business best. You know me. You know what I want. You know my family. You know everything. You have to help me." And that is what turned me to the Exit Planning Institute. What I discovered was that I had been doing exit planning for 10 years and I didn't know it. I was helping business owners exit. I never called myself an exit planner, but my work was creating the exitability factor. The business was attractive, ready. The business owners knew what they wanted and they transacted. So many of the companies that I had worked with in EOS implementation sold. $120 million canning company, $250 million Volvo dealership, right down to, a $15 million IT company. So exits were happening around me. I just didn't realize my role in it. The success in the M&A world, your outcomes, you're looking for the deal, the close, the net proceeds, the terms. For me, the success is in the optionality I create for business owners, the freedom. And some of the most successful things that I have accomplished have been around the freedom to retire and leave the business in the hands of other shareholders and a capable team. In one case, I have a business owner who's at the line now, and he's moving into retirement, buying a lake house to make memories with his kids and his grandchildren. Another one, a failed exit. The business went to market. What business owners don't realize is up to 70% of the time, the deal is likely to fail in the market. So I had a client that failed in market last year with one of the big four accounting firms running the process. I had been kind of retired from the process and the deal failed. And so the business owner brought me back in. We've reset the business at $30 million. We realized we didn't have the right people in the team. We realized the business owner was still too closely tied to the sales function. And we identified that we had not unlocked our strategic partnership potential. So we're back. And I was there when we took the business from 13 million to 30 million. And now we are on pace to 50. And every year that business owner has the freedom to stay or the freedom to go. And interestingly, Nick, he's fallen back in love with the business, not because it needs him every day, not because he wants to show up every day. It's because he's invested in his team's success. In the next 3 years, they will transact. That is clear. I have set up an advisory board and we're all on pace with that. But what matters most is he is living his best life today and he does not need to show up. He's a hockey dad. He's got a lake house. He's got 2 boats and dirt bikes. And you never know where this guy is next. And he is free.
Yeah.
So for me, success is more in the freedom than the outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it sounds like he's, living a great life while in the business, and and that's a big thing, like not relying on the business owner. That's one of the big value propositions that, buyers look at is, well, how reliant is it on the business owner? And I would imagine that's one of the big things that you guys focus on based on your example here and how successful that has been is how, getting them out of the day-to-day, getting a management team in place and so on and so forth. But where do you find that, a business owner gets stuck most often in the preparation or just the value creation that in their business? Where are some common, spots where they get stuck that you can make a real big impact on?
I find business owners get stuck in inside of their company, mostly in the customer relationships, in the sales function. Because those long-standing customers are doing business with Dave or Peter or Paul, or whoever it is the owner, versus the business. So it takes time to create the sales infrastructure that makes the business owner not essential to the success of the sales process. So we need a good leader, we need good process, good systems, good workflows, and it takes a lot to birth that baby. It's a lot easier to delegate and elevate an owner out of finance, eventually out of ops. Sales tends to be the most sticky, and there's been a lot of studies around this. There's one that's being wrapped up here in Vancouver. Really, somebody was doing their master's project around this. So really understanding the psychological connections and those hooks that are hard to untangle a business owner from the sales function. So that operationally is where I find they get the most stuck. But the bigger execution gap that I think business owners are facing is around their succession planning. And we know this work needs to start 3 to 5 years prior to a transition. The question is, why aren't business owners doing it? Now, some have taken the steps to get educated. Some even have a documented plan, but even then they struggle to execute. Most other business owners are swimming around the dock, completely ignorant to this conversation because they are just focusing on today. Succession planning, exit planning really touches on 2 very sensitive topics, more sensitive than politics and religion: money and mortality. Business owners don't want to go there. People think, oh no, business owners have such a great relationship with money. They like to make money, but I'm like, I think they have a very complicated relationship with money. Most business owners I've met have had some adverse events and developed a complex relationship with money from their childhood. They went bankrupt as a family. They lost everything. They were kicked out of home at 17 with nothing. They came from a foreign country, like whatever the case may be, there is a complex scarcity relationship with money that I see show up more times than not. It doesn't tend to reveal itself until we are close to the close. And what the business owner is focusing on in terms of the dollars and the cents is not what they should be focusing on, but they are, because we have that unaddressed complex relationship showing up. That trauma rears its head in the very emotional final stages of closing. My partner works in M&A, so I see this quite a lot. The execution gap that business owners are facing, and the reason why a lot of this work isn't getting done and executed on early enough, is, I think, born out of three gaps: the advisor gap, the alignment gap, and the accountability gap. So advisors are not playing as a team early enough. They start to act like a deal team when they get to your end, Nick, but they need to be acting like a team in a coordinated, fully integrated capacity years in advance, 3 to 5 years out. In fact, right now, there's no reason why any business owner should be independently working with their advisors and their professional service providers. They should be asking them to come together to have one conversation about their plan. The second one is alignment gap. No one really knows what the owner wants, what's most important, what the plan is. It's not written, it's not understood, and it's not shared by all, both the owners group, the operating team, and the advisor team. So without that focus, we tend to keep doing what we're doing now and expecting different outcomes. And the other gap is accountability gap. The accountability gap is lack of clarity around who needs to be doing what and a mechanism to hold them accountable to that every 90 days, both inside the business and in the advisor team. And the SEPA, the quarterback SEPA, I think, is the key here, because they coordinate the advisors, they create the clarity and alignment around the plan, and they drive accountability. So business owners, it's not that they don't want to, although sometimes they're a little avoidant around this work. It's the gap that they're in, and we as advisors can do better.
This episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast is powered by Cornerstone International Alliance, where leading M&A firms come together. As part of this international network, you get access to global opportunities, over 200 M&A experts, enhanced collaboration and knowledge sharing, and some of the best M&A tools and resources available, all to help you take your firm to the next level. Ready to join this exclusive network? Visit cornerstoneia.com/new member today. What about the human side of it, the emotional side that comes up, whether it's during the process or, I would imagine they even get heightened at, getting closer to that exit because it's such a big change. It's their identity. It's their baby that they've built up for how many years. How do you look at just, the human side of it, their emotions, to make sure that that's kind of in line with the team around them and everything's moving together?
Mm-hmm. I was talking to Scott Snyder at the Exit Planning Institute about this last week. I was saying, I think we're moving into the era of the human advisor, who shows up as a whole human, who's willing to have real human-centered conversations very early. Every business owner I work with, I understand their childhood story, where they grew up, what they learned, the hardships they've had, the DNA of that human being. I understand their family ecosystem. Who are their stakeholders? What are the health of those relationships? And I really make sure that throughout the prepare gate, when I'm working with a business owner, they're doing their own personal work to re-identify with who they are, reclaim their sense of their life outside of this business, get clear on what they want and need, and start this work early. When the business owner knows what they want their life to look like 3 years from now and what their 10-year legacy is, they understand their values and their purpose for being, we help them become a whole. Nick, these are not conversations we should be starting in the midstream of due diligence.
Right.
These should be known facts and understood before you even take on a client. If you don't know who they are, you are taking on an unknown major risk. Number one risk to this transaction is the business owner. So if they don't have a me, they need to get one fast. Because you need somebody de-risking them, making sure we're clear on who they are, what they want, what the triggers are, the traumas, and all these things, and managing them through the process. The business is going through a transition process, but the business owner is going through a major life transition process that can be transformational or tragic. Think about what you want for them. And if you want it to be transformational, they need a guide. They shouldn't be doing this alone. They're doing the transaction work with you guys. That's awesome. But they need a guide for themselves to navigate. Someone that they can call in the middle of the night and say, I'm having second thoughts. Someone they can call on the way to the management meeting saying, I don't know what to say. And you'll be like, we trained you for this. We talked about this. So let's walk it through again. Let's slow down. What are we not saying first? So that guide is very, very important. And like, if I were in sell side M&A, I look at my partner's work all day long and I'm like, they needed me. They needed me on that client 3 years ago. And everything else now is just too much risk. I want that statistic to flip. I want 70% of deals that go to market to close. And the difference between 30% success rate and 70% is preparation.
What when you meet a client for the first time, what percent of them, it can be ballpark, obviously you might not have an exact figure, but would you say are in a good spot, have done some actual preparation work, or like just kind of clueless and done nothing to prepare?
I think of the business owners that I have met, I think they're thinking about exit planning about 50% of the time. Never once have I met a business owner that says, I have a succession roadmap, a clear plan. I have a personal plan, a financial plan. The team are aligned and we know where we're going. Everything's good. We don't need your help. Never once has that happened. They typically have done some tax structuring. Okay. A lot of those tax structures are much more about pulling net proceeds out of the business and minimizing tax. Often they're not fully optimized for a transaction. So my work tests that. About 90% of the time they've got tax structuring. About 75% of the time they have estate planning because they're starting to accumulate some wealth and they want to de-risk it for the future upon death and all those things. And that's typically it. So most business owners I meet don't have a personal plan. Crazy. Most also don't have, more than 50% don't have a financial plan, because the type of financial advisor they've been talking to is like, when you've got money, come talk to me. More of a wealth manager as opposed to a financial planner. Most do not have an agreed upon understanding around their succession journey with their operating team. It's this conversation that we all know. We all know 100% of the time the business owner will transition. And we act like it's a dirty little secret, but it's 100% true all the time. So why we're not talking about this blows my mind. But most business owners I meet have not had these conversations around their succession with their key operators, their CEO, COO. They haven't had these conversations. We're all just expecting we're going to keep doing this forever. That lack of planning is concerning.
Yeah. Do you think they're scared to have those conversations internally about that?
100% of the time. Yeah.
And why? What are they scared of?
They fear the sense of abandonment from the team. What they've often done is the team are overly attached to the owner as opposed to the business. They haven't really birthed the baby. The business doesn't have its own structure, vision, ethos, everything that people are attached to. In many businesses, the employees are attached to the owner. So we have to go through this decoupling process, birthing process, so people can connect with the business as opposed to the owner. And they're afraid of having these conversations because they're worried that the team will feel abandoned. And if they know that this business owner is looking to transition, they tend to worry about the flight risk of those employees leaving. When we do the work to birth the baby, to create the structure in the company and actually compensate leaders around the long-term future results of this company, irrespective of who owns it, they get a lot more intrinsically and extrinsically connected to the business versus the owner. The more we empower them to run the business, the more they treat it like their own, and the safer these conversations become. But it takes time and planning to be able to do this successfully.
Like you said before, 3 to 5 years is preferred. Doesn't always happen that with that amount of runway. But what are you from the M&A advisors who are listening to this show right now? When we talk to a lot of business owners, a lot of them are not ready for whatever reason. Maybe mentally, maybe the numbers don't make sense. Maybe they haven't maybe they have to exit for some reason, unforeseen, circumstances. What advice would you give the M&A advisor as they're talking to business owners who might not be ready right now to sell? Things to look for that, you would recommend bringing on, someone like yourself into the equation that you can make an impact on, because, most M&A advisors are gonna look to someone like you to, they have a relationship with someone like you to refer to or put them in connection with to do that work that needs to get them to the place that they are ready to exit. What things should they look for? How do they know what, who and when and how and all that stuff to connect with someone like yourself?
There's a tactical approach to answering that question, but I'm going to go a little bit bigger. For many business owners, they're likely going to do this once in their life. This is their climb to Everest. Now, if somebody said to you, I want to climb Everest, I want to go now and I want to go alone and I'm ready. They've done no training, no preparation. You'll be like, you will die. No, you're not doing that. You would logically say you need to start your training. You need to get ready. It could take up to 2 years to get ready. You're not going to climb by yourself. You're going to go with a team and you're going to have a guide. Okay. So we get that when we think about climbing to Everest. But what we need to do is step back and focus less on the transaction that's at the peak of the summit and focus about how we get the business owner ready for their climb to the summit. And in that, they need to do their preparation. They need to be working with a value advisor or a SEPA quarterback who's bringing together personal, financial, and business alignment, and they're getting the owner and the business ready. And they need at least a couple of years of training or getting ready. They need a team, an advisor team. And so recommending that they bring their advisors together and let that SEPA quarterback those advisors is important. They should not go alone. And they need a guide. They need a SEPA who is able to guide the process along the way. It's not to conflict with the M&A, but actually to create flow and ease and a frictionless and de-risked transaction process. So I would say any M&A advisor out there, just recognize that business owners are likely going to do this once. They need a prep, they need a team, they need a guide, and get really good at putting those things in place, because if you do, when they are ready, they will come back. My work makes you look like a rock star in the process. My work increases your commission and the net proceeds in the pocket of the business owner. My work de-risks the close. Why wouldn't you bring me in?
Absolutely. I mean, ideally, the work that you're doing does provide less risk, issues, concerns, hiccups in the process that could come up. It's going to be a more buttoned up business, and in most cases, get a higher value. And yeah, like you're very right. It does put you as the M&A advisor who's leading that process in a good spot to succeed. And we all want the business owner to succeed and all work together. And that's that team of advisors around the business owner that you had mentioned. To working together for one common goal and that's the business owner's success and what that next phase of their life looks like, making sure that they're taken care of, like you said, financially, emotionally, physically, all that sort of great stuff. And the business is in a good spot when they leave it.
Yeah. Let us unlock the value. That's up to 80% of the value is off the P&L and the balance sheet. It's in the intangibles, and it takes time to mature that and build that so that the business is truly transferable. It might be attractive, but the success of that closing is going to be really looking at how transferable it is to its new owners, and can it unlock under new ownership. And so that really does take time to unlock that value and protect it. So I would say every M&A really would be wise to have a value advisor on their team at close reach and engage them early. I bring M&A into my first gate, into my discover gate. Then I take the client through prepare and then decide the value acceleration methodology. But I bring them in early. I'm floating these conversations early. I want to make sure my work is helping position the business for the best possible exit options. And it motivates the business owner to want to do this work sooner. So we need to be, though it sounds like sometimes we're at bookends of the work. I think we sometimes need to sit in each other's shoes a little bit and see into each other's worlds and really create those bookends that create focused execution on the path.
Absolutely. I loved your analogy about, climbing Mount Everest. And we say that all the time. You go at it alone. We use the analogy of, you're going up against buyers who are serial buyers. They've done this hundreds of times. You've never done it before. Who's gonna come out on top? It's not going to be, in most cases, the business owner, because they don't know what they don't know. And to insulate around them all the things they need to have this, this climb to the summit be successful. I think that was a great analogy. Last question I have for you, Renee. This has been amazing. What do you think the future holds for the exit planning profession? What do you guys have going on at Exit Planning Institute? And what does the next year look like for the Exit Planner of the Year?
Well, right now it's very busy. I've just come back from Cleveland doing the magazine and podcasts and videos and all sorts of things. There's going to be a lot of thought leadership this year. So I'm excited about that. I do feel like I represent the client and the advisor as a former business owner myself. So I'm really going to use this megaphone strategically. Back to where we started our conversation today. I do believe the future of this profession within the age of AI is going to be much more relational, human-centric, and showing good guidership for business owners on their journey to their summit. I like to think about, this profession integrating three forms of intelligence: human intelligence, systems intelligence, and artificial intelligence. The human intelligence is born out of the collective, the advisors, how we bring all that guidance around the business owner and really make sure it's coming to the table at the right time to help the business owner move forward. The systems intelligence, we need a very systemized, structured way of doing the work so we can integrate in and play as one team. No sport team goes on the field without a system, without a playbook. So we need to use the systems intelligence in the company and in the way we work as advisors to create that 90-day world of execution. The artificial intelligence is the piece I'm most excited about, because we're not going to spend hours and hours in our inbox analyzing data, pulling together reports. We're going to focus our energy on the eyeball to eyeball connection and the relational collaboration. AI is going to help us get the better information, smarter outcomes, and speed to execution. So I'm excited about that. We're facing a $14 trillion succession tsunami. We need to go faster. We need to play together as teams, and we need to focus on the human.
Mic drop. Very well said. I love it. Renee, thank you so much for joining the show. Where can our listeners, connect with you, learn more about the great work that you're doing and and all the things you're doing at Exit Planning Institute?
Amazing. Thank you. LinkedIn is my happy place. I have a website, riseupbc.com, but LinkedIn is where I engage on a daily basis. I straddle both, speaking to business owners, but a lot of my energy goes into activating advisors. So that is a really great place to connect with me. I run a peer community called exitmentor.com. So everything kind of comes together on LinkedIn. I'm an author, and in my book, I talk about personal planning, personal transformation, and actually give away a framework in the book. And that's called Ready to Rise book.com. These are really great places, but where all paths lead is back to LinkedIn. And if you want to see more about how I'm collaborating as a member of the Thought Leadership Council and Exit Planner of the Year, if you're also on LinkedIn, I encourage you to check out the Exit Planning Institute, because there's a lot of exciting things coming up. We're going to NASCAR race next weekend in San Diego. Lots of really cool events for both advisors and business owners through drivevalue.com. So the Exit Planning Institute is the game-changing organization, the fastest growing professional services association in North America. And I'm really excited about the future for all of us.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Renee. That is all we have for this episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast. Make sure to share this episode with anybody who you think might benefit from this conversation. Like, share, and comment, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, wherever you get podcasts. Click that notification button to make sure you get notified every time a brand new episode airs. Until next time, everybody, take care. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast, and a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, Cornerstone International Alliance. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'll be back next week with more insights, strategies, and real-life experiences to help you take your M&A game to the next level.